We're in today with the legendary GTX 460 from Gigabyte. This is a 2010 video card with 1 gig of VRAM, GDDR5, 256 bits bus width, running at 850 MHz on the core clock and 900 MHz on the memory clock. We're gonna pair it up with this i7 second gen with 4 cores and 8 threads. I'm gonna see how this system is holding in a couple of games. Let's jump in. Let's start with Fortnite because this is one of those situations that the game actually shows how it's performing. On the video card, you can actually see it's utilizing 0.8 gig of VRAM and 70-80% load on the core in order to deliver around 60-70 FPS on average with 11 on minimal and around 35 on 1%. Those are good numbers, but the problem is the frame time that is nearly 20. That is sometimes is lagging and is spiking, and you don't want that. You want a very steady FPS on overall. In this situation, the system is doing quite fantastic with 9.3 gig of system RAM being utilized in Fortnite. So in this case, the i7 second gen is good for the system, and it's only using around 50-60% load on the CPU. It's a good performance overall, so I will not complain about the system. The only thing I will do is that lack of VRAM this video card has. Only 1 gig of VRAM in this situation. That is the only problem. But overall, the video card is doing fantastic. There is no problem in this situation. The core is strong enough to actually deliver, and I will say overall it's quite okay. But in Farlight, apparently it's running really nice, this whole configuration. On the GPU side, we're getting 0.7 gig of VRAM utilized here with 80%, 85% load on the core and 67 degrees on this GPU score. I like how this video card is working. This is the Gigabyte model, and it has a way of cooling this video card in such a way that I'm very mesmerized about it. 2200 RPM on the fan speed in order to keep this GPU cool. I would say this is a big win for the video card. And on the system side, we are using 8.1 gig of system RAM in order to deliver this performance. Barely between 50 and 70% load on the CPU and 71 degrees on the CPU. I mean, this CPU needs a proper cooler because it's the original cooler that I had on the i3. So I understand this cooler is not very adequate to cool this i7. So in the future, I need to get a proper one like I got for that Intel QX 6850 that actually is doing a fantastic job. And I need to find something similar. You can actually see that the FPS is kind of good, over 200 with 51 on minimal and 79 on 1%. The frame time is good, under 10. If it's under 10, then the whole thing, the whole setup is fantastic. So I agree with this configuration. I agree with the GPU. I agree with the CPU and how it's holding in Farlight. But in PUBG with 1080p with 70% render scale and low details, you will get around 40-50 FPS on average, 12 minimals and 23 on 1%. This is not a good performance because the GPU is being bottleneck. I mean, even the CPU is working really hard in this occasion. You can actually see 0.9 gig of VRAM utilized, 99% load on the core, 67 degrees on the core of the GPU. And even the GPU is getting hot with this game, seriously. So in this occasion, I will say this is very hard on the whole system. On the CPU side, you can actually see the cores are being literally maxed out with majority of the cores with 72 degrees on the temperature of the CPU and around 11.2 gig of system RAM utilized to give you this performance. I mean, 45 FPS. Performance-wise with this CPU and this GPU, I will say, yes, find another game or try to play this game with 720p because this is the only way you can actually do this, seriously. If you want 1080p with the CPU and the GPU, yeah, it's not possible. But in Battlefield 3, apparently we are getting with 1080p with low details, we are getting around 100 FPS. I like the performance here. It's kind of fantastic to see this video card and GPU running like this. I like the overall performance, and I will suggest this type of game because this is the one that is working really nice with this. 100 FPS average in Battlefield 3. This is the right game for this. Wow, 47 minimal, 66 on 1%, only 0.8 gig of VRAM utilized here, and I will say this is a good performance from this video card. Maximum core load on the other hand, because you know, maximum load on a GTX 460 that is so old, you know. I was expecting less performance from this system, but it's doing the job. Even though it's maximum load on the core, the GPU, it's actually performing really well with the fan. It's 2000 RPM is delivering that coolness to the video card. It's chilling the video card pretty well, and I will say this is a very effective radiator. On the system side, we're utilizing 6.8 gig of system RAM. Oh, I like the performance given by this computer. Not gonna lie, it's kind of good to see this computer running like this. In Battlefield 1 with 1080p and low details, we are getting around 60-70 FPS on average, 21 on minimal. That's not okay, seriously. Look at this. This is butchering the video card overall. You can increase the quality here in order to get 60 FPS if you want to do it like that, but I went with 50% render scale so I can see if it's utilizing the GPU properly. So in this case, it's utilizing 100% the GPU, 2000 RPM in order to keep the video card cooled on this occasion with 64 degrees. I will say 64 degrees, it's okay, you know, for this video card when it's maxed out. 0.8 gig of VRAM. It's doing a fantastic job, you know, the cooler. And I think in this situation, the only problem will be the system. Even the system is doing great, you know, with 10.7 gig of system RAM used here. And you can actually see it's a big map, so hence why it needs a lot of system RAM. In Counter-Strike 2, with this system is doing kind of horrible, you know, like 50-60 FPS on average, 14 on minimals, and 23 on 1%. This is not ideal, but you can actually see that the GPU is maxed out. You can actually see the core is reaching nearly 100% load with 0.8 gig of VRAM utilized in order to deliver this performance. So the GPU, it's at the wall with this situation. 63 degrees, apparently it's nearly 2000 RPM in order to deliver this temperature. And on the CPU side, we're using nearly 10 gig of system RAM. And the CPU, it's around 60. I can actually see some 60% load on the cores, and not a bad performance from this CPU. It's doing the job in this occasion, and it's utilizing 52-53 watts consumption from this system. In War Thunder, apparently with medium details on 1080p, we're getting around 50 FPS. If you're interested on lowering the resolution, I mean, if you're interested on lowering the quality, you will get better FPS, but I wanted to put it on medium in order to see how it's loading up the system. You can actually see it looks okay with this quality, and it's utilizing the whole system completely. I mean, only the GPU, because that's the only problem here in this situation. 98-99% load on the core, 0.9 gig of VRAM utilized. It actually looks fantastic on medium details, and you can actually see it's utilizing the video card. 67 degrees on the core of the GPU in order to deliver this performance, but on the system side we are using around 8 gig of system RAM, and the CPU is consuming like around 30 watts. That means it's not very utilized, because I actually seen it with 56 in Battlefield 1. So in this case it's around 61-63 degrees on the temperature of the CPU with 50% load on the cores. An average of 50% load on the cores. I think this is an overall good performance, but if you're interested on playing the game with higher FPS, I suggest using the low quality. In this situation, you can actually see that even with medium, it's holding around 50 FPS. Averaging really nice in Crossout apparently with nearly 100 FPS on average. I will not say this is a bad experience, because it's a very fantastic experience with this system. 98-99% load on the GPU core, 0.8 gig of VRAM utilized in this case, and 7.8 gig of system RAM used in order to deliver this performance with this computer. 61-62 degrees on the CPU side, 40 watts consumption. This is a great experience, and I will not complain about this. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of impressive to see this game running with helicopters. I mean, if you can fly in the game too and put cannons on a chopper, I think this became even more entertaining. In World of Tanks, apparently, we are getting around 70-80 FPS on average with 15 minimals and 35 on 1%. Good performance overall, I'm not gonna lie, because the video card is maxed out in this situation, but even on medium details with 1080p, the video card still managed to push playable FPS on average. I like how it's performing, but the GPU is struggling on the fan because it's 69 degrees and it's pushing nearly 2500 RPM in order to deliver this performance. Look at this. Looks fantastic. It runs really good, even though it's utilizing 0.9, I mean maximum VRAM and maximum core. It's still holding with playable FPS. In order to distress the video card in this situation, would be ideal to put VSync on, and then the video card will be less stressed. With VSync activated, I got like 70-80% load on the core, 0.8 gig of VRAM. See, it's actually distressing the whole thing. Only 2200 RPM in order to get 67 degrees. It started to cool down, you know, so in this case it's okay. On the other hand, the CPU is getting loaded, 45 watts consumption and 65 degrees on the CPU. Only 8.6 gig of system RAM, so it's okay. VSync, it's recommended to play World of Tanks. But in Wreckfest with 720p and low details, I get like 30 FPS on average. I was expecting this system to work much better, but yeah, I wish I had different type of settings here in order to get more FPS, but managed to put it by mistake on 720p and I'm getting 30 FPS on average, 13 minimals. What the f is going on? Just a little redo, you know, because it smacked my card really hard. So 30 FPS, 5 minimal, 22.1%, 0.8 gig of VRAM used, and 100% maximum core load. Come on, go, get out. On the system side, we're utilizing 7.6 gig of system RAM. The core is under 40 watts, so that means it's okay. And yeah, because if it's over 40 watts, then that means the CPU it's utilized. Does it run Wreckfest with the system? Yeah, it's kind of hard on the GPU because the GPU is not that powerful, you know. The core is not powerful, and apparently the VRAM, you don't need too much VRAM, but a faster core will be ideal in this case. One, I really like the video card because this is the third one that I have from Gigabyte, I'm not gonna lie. But the problem is with them because I can only put 2 in SLI. That was the whole purpose. And by mistake, I bought a third one by mistake. And today I used the last GTX 460 from Gigabyte in this machine, and I really like the machine, how it's performing. Second thing that I want to talk about is that I'm very surprised how the whole system is working, and I want to put more video cards in this machine because it's very entertaining and how it's holding nowadays. In the future, if you manage to find a similar machine and then you can put a 460 inside, you can actually call it a gaming machine, an old gaming machine. You know, not a new gaming machine, an old gaming machine. So there's a lot of games that can actually work on this computer, so there is no problem. Overall, I like the system. Overall, I like the GPU, and yeah, can't wait to test more components in this computer. So if you manage to find it entertaining, make sure you smash that like button. If you have any suggestion for the system or for this video card, leave a comment. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you very soon.